Baseball is back, and there really is nothing like a home team advantage. That's why Team Toyota makes an obvious choice for your next vehicle purchase or service. With their MVP pricing guarantee, teammates reward program, and streamlined customer experience, their award-winning sales and service departments are there for all of your vehicle needs. A home team advantage is nothing without family and community. Their employees are part of the family, they're part of your town, and we're all part of the team. Visit teamtoyota.net and choose one of their 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. We sat here on the Phillies Talk Podcast a week ago. I'm Corey Simon. He's Ricky Batalico. Our producer is Spencer McKercher. But we sat here and we talked about the upcoming slate of games, winnable games against some of the worst teams in baseball. And the Phillies went and won them all. And then they won their series opener Monday night in Cincinnati, another dominant performance by Ranger Suarez and the pitching staff. And there's a lot to get to about what's going on lately. But Ricky, I want to start with this. Going into the season, your bold prediction was that Ranger Suarez was going to be a Cy Young candidate. It's looking pretty good so far, huh?
He does look pretty good. You know what's funny? And I'll group this as a whole in the Phillies starting rotation because they've been really good, and Ranger's been outstanding. He's got control of all his pitches. But they're pitchers. You look around the league, how many teams have 5 pitchers? And I'm talking about guys that can control the strike zone without throwing 100 miles an hour, control the strike zone with their fastball and sinker on both sides of the plate, and then just abuse guys with pitches, with depth pitches. I mean, you look at Ranger and you think about his changeup and his curveball. He uses them very differently, and he's very smart with it, and he won't abuse one over the other in certain games. And that, to me, says, hey, you know what? You want to sit on one pitch? Then I'm going to throw you the little changeup. You're going to sit on that changeup? I'm going to drop the curveball on him. He's really thinking through his games. And that, to me, as a whole, with the Phillies rotation, these guys are all pitchers. They all know how to pitch. They all understand how to set up hitters. I think that's one thing that's lacking around Major League Baseball. And for the Phillies to have 5 of them right now, man, this is special what we're seeing right now. And I don't even know if the fan base even realizes that, because the one thing that you're hearing right now is, hey, the hitters are coming along. They're starting to score 7 runs in a game and blah, blah, blah. But I look at this pitching staff, and that's what's going to win it for you late in the season. That's what's going to win it for you in October. And I think they may have right now the best pitching staff in baseball.
And it just shows you how quickly that becomes the expectation, because I think you're right that it is kind of flying under the radar locally and nationally how good this Phillies rotation has been. Some of that's because they've played bad teams, but you can obviously only play the team in front of you. And for all the talk in recent seasons about them playing down to the level of competition, it also matters when they do the opposite, when they do go 6-0 against those bottom-feeding teams, to use a phrase from the past. But he, Ranger Suarez, when things go wrong for Ranger, why do they, like, when you see this version of him, you start to wonder, like, you start to think back to his struggles, and it's like, well, the guy has command of 4 or 5 different pitches on any given night. So when things do go south for him, what are some of the common themes that you see in those games?
I think his ball flattens out a little bit. It happens to everybody every once in a while. I think it's very simple. He doesn't throw 95 and above. So what you're going to see is if he loses his location on a certain night and he's leaving the ball out over the plate, he becomes extremely hittable. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He really lives on the inner and outer third. So he uses 2/3 of the plate. He tries to stay out of the middle of the plate all the time. In certain games, you're going to flatten out at times. And where's that ball going to end up? It's usually going to end up out over the middle of the plate, and he becomes very hittable. Just for the sole fact that he's not throwing 95 above. He's not going to blow the ball by you if he's out over the middle of the plate. Right now, I just don't see that problem. And the one thing about Ranger is, I always say this, and people look at it like and kind of poo-poo it away, his tempo. I mean, I think it's very simple. When Ranger Suarez is getting the ball and then throwing his pitches with conviction, boom, 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 I think that's when you know he's on his game. If Ranger's walking around the mound, taking his time in between pitches, that tells me he doesn't have a good feel for what he's doing on that night. I just think his studying pregame and his in-game knowledge of what he wants to do, it really stands out because of that tempo. And when he's going strong, you saw it last night. You're talking about 2 hours and 2 minutes last night. I mean, that tells me Ranger was on his game. If you start seeing him kind of, it's almost like a mindset. You could see it in his face when he knows exactly what he wants to do. And he literally gets the ball and he's ready to go on his next pitch. And that to me is saying, I know what I'm doing. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep this tempo going. And I think for him, that's a big part of his game.
Well, that was a special turn through the Phillies rotation, one that, you might go decades without seeing again, where, Suarez throws a shutout. 2 Phillies pitchers bring no hitters into the 7th inning or later of games with Spencer Turnbull and Zack Wheeler. I wrote this the other day that Aaron Nola over 2 starts allowed 3 runs on 8 hits over 15 and a third innings. And those were the Phillies' worst 2 starts of the week that week. So, I mean, it just shows you the depth and upside of this rotation. With Wheeler in that game against the White Sox over the weekend, it was funny because watching it unfold at Citizens Bank Park, he didn't have especially great stuff that night. I mean, he had good stuff that night, but it's not as if it was so much better than any other Zack Wheeler night. This is just the reality now that every start that he goes out, for the most part, there's a clunker here and there, but 90% of the time that he goes out there, he's going to be in full control of every weapon in his arsenal. And he's even added to that this year with a new pitch. And this is probably the best pitcher in baseball right now. Who's better than Zack Wheeler right now?
Nobody. I just think when you watch Wheeler pitch, the expectations are so high, and generally he adds up to those expectations. And you don't really see that in baseball a lot. A lot of the better pitchers are 5-6 inning pitchers, and then they're out of the ball game. I think Wheeler's mindset is, I'm going to get us to the finish line. That's what he wants to do. Obviously, pitch counts matter in baseball still, so you're not going to see a lot of him finishing out games. But the one thing that you just said, he's the Phillies' hardest thrower in the starting rotation, and he still knows how to pitch. That's why certain days he may not have his best fastball, but he can control the game with his off-speed stuff. And then that new splitter is just, that's almost unfair. I mean, it really is. It's an unfair pitch for him to even develop, but it's a pitch that could get outs just like that. And I just think Zack Wheeler's that type of pitcher who has made himself into what he is. He was not this good on the Mets. He was not this good on the Mets. And when he has been maybe the one of, probably as stable as he's been since he's been a Philly, he's been the best pitcher in baseball. I really believe that. And yeah, you talk about his clunkers. His clunkers are 4 runs in 6 innings, 4 runs in 7 innings.
If that.
Not like 8 runs in 3 innings and he's out of the game. He battles through sometimes, and that's what you got to love about him. He's just one of those guys who has a really good game plan. He knows what his out pitches are, and he knows the league so well. When you've been around as long as he has, he's seen just about everybody in this league. And when you do that, he knows what they've got him on before. Obviously, they see reports on what guys have done against them, and you try to switch things up, maybe pitch backwards to certain players if you can. And, I mean, his weapons are second to none. I mean, in all honesty, he's got a heck of a repertoire when he steps out on the mound.
Yeah, and the Phillies at this point are as built around starting pitching as they are anything else. They've paid Zack Wheeler top 5 all-time annual money. They've paid Aaron Nola $172 million. Ranger Suarez, if he continues to pitch like this or anything close to it, he's going to get an $100 million plus contract himself, because Taijuan Walker was 4 years, $72 million. Suarez is going to reach free agency pretty much same age, if not younger, just as much upside, if not more. And then Taijuan Walker, Spence and I were talking about this a little bit before the show, but this is what's on the mind of a lot of Phillies fans, that Walker, it looks like, is going to rejoin the rotation this weekend, huh?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, man. And I know obviously it's been a tough situation after Turnbull, especially goes 7, with no hit stuff there on Friday night. And I'll tell you what, Friday night was a lot of fun. We were kind of going nuts here. We had the graphic prepped, we had everything ready to go. And then, of course, we get the graphics jinx once they got thrown up there. But yeah, obviously Turnbull's been pitching great lately. And with Taijuan on the way back, obviously it's been a discussion in the last few pods. I know Taijuan threw, maybe his last rehab start in AAA, only was hitting 88 to 89, went 6. What are we thinking, Ricky, in terms of this situation now has been coming down? This decision is now here. What's Rob Thompson, the Phillies, going to do?
The money he makes, he's going into the rotation. I don't think there's any doubt about it. You can't just throw a $17-18 million pitcher into the bullpen and say, oh, that's good business. I just don't think they could do that. Would I do it? Nope. I would put him in the bullpen. I would say, you know what? I like the way this starting rotation is going. And I understand about Spencer Turnbull and his innings. But I don't think I would be concerned about that right now. If he gets into mid-June and starts faltering even a little bit, then you make that switch. Maybe Taijuan Walker, maybe somebody else. But I'm just telling you right now, I like the way Turnbull's been throwing the baseball. I don't know if it's camaraderie, but I like the mix of the starting rotation right now. I like the setup of the rotation right now. And I don't know, is this going to change something? I mean, I think we all know baseball is all about confidence. Baseball is all about getting that ball rolling and then everybody kind of following each other. Is Taijuan Walker going to be able to do that with this rotation? Or is it going to be Taijuan Walker, then whoever's after him has to pick up the pieces?
What do you think?
I like Turnbull in there, and I understand his pitch situation and his pitch count situation, stuff like that. But the way he's been throwing the baseball, he's made it very hard to take him out of that rotation right now.
When you say that you would move Walker to the bullpen now, would you be doing that temporarily to let him acclimate himself? And because you said, acknowledging Turnbull's innings thing, would that be in your mind? If you did that, would that be a temporary move, or would that be because
it would probably be temporary because at some point is Turnbull going to fall? If he doesn't falter, no, I'm not moving anybody.
Right.
Let him go his 150, 160 innings. Then if you have some space and time at the end of the year, let Taijuan get some starts in.
And I think Rob right now, I think the plan is to throw Taijuan in between Ranger and Sanchi, kind of split up the left, right, left there. But okay, then so you throw Taijuan into the rotation right here. What's his leash, right? If you have Turnbull, who's
well, that's the other thing that I was going to get at. What is he going to do to the bullpen?
Right.
You don't want to burn out the bullpen, and one starter can do that at times.
Yeah. Because, the bullpen has not been used a lot lately, which has been great. I mean, Jeff Hoffman came in on Monday night just to throw up 7-0 because he hasn't pitched in 3 or 4 days.
Well, let me ask you guys something. What is your confidence level in Taijuan Walker right now? All honesty, right now.
Corey, go ahead.
One out of 10, I would say from a scale from 1 to 10, I would say it's a 4.5 right now because there are the velocity concerns that date back to spring training at this point. And Taijuan Walker at 90 miles per hour, 91 miles per hour is a lot different than Taijuan Walker at 94, 95, where he was early last season. And he had that really successful run, 15 start stretch, 2 months, maybe even a little longer than 2 months, where he was something like 12-3 with a ERA below 3, led the Phillies in wins last season. But even still, you do wonder if he's going to be able to consistently get outs if his velocity is that far down. When you talk about the leash, it does give the Phillies the ability to start a guy like that because they were getting so much length out of the rest of the rotation. I asked Rob Thompson the other night what sort of impact it has on a bullpen when it is as rested now as the Phillies bullpen has been. And he went the other way with it. He said it actually makes guys rusty because, you start to look around. Strahm has pitched. This is going into Monday night. Strahm had pitched once in 8 days. Soto once in 6 days. It was Hoffman once in 5. Dominguez once in 5. Kerkering once in 7. Alvarado had gotten in there 3 times in 8 games, but had outings of 1 and 2 pitches. So, it goes both ways. And there was a little bit of rust shown by Junior Marte, I guess, over the weekend in the White Sox series. But they have to start Taijuan Walker, and they will because of the price tag. It's year 2 of a contract that most teams would be looking to get out of already, but you can't, and now you just have to hope that if from the Phillies perspective, they have to just hope that he pitches well. But lastly, just on Spencer Turnbull, the Phillies aren't going to go from April 25th to the end of the regular season without a starter missing a start.
Right.
So with that being the reality, Turnbull's going to get a handful, a half dozen more starts, if not more. So I don't think this is the end of his contributions.
My problem is the preparation. How is he going to be ready to go 6-7 innings? You lose it. I mean, once you go in the bullpen, you could say what you want. He's going to throw bullpen sessions, this and that, but you're not going to be anywhere near prime to go 6 or 7 innings.
Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on OpenTable. I mean, offensively, though, that is the other part of this. The Phillies, the first few weeks of the season, everybody's talking about where's the slugging, where's the slugging. I looked at it this morning. I think they're 10th in baseball now in slugging percentage. They're tied for third, I want to say, in home runs with 27. Schwarber now is heated up from a power perspective. Everybody, I would say collectively down the lineup, has gotten hot at one point or another this month, other than Nick Castellanos. You know, Trey Turner's been locked in all month. This is Trey Turner. You know, this Trey Turner that we've seen this April here, hitting 340 plus, stealing bases, hitting doubles, hitting the ball consistently to, you know, pulling it and driving the ball to the gap. That's Trey Turner. He's also been impressive defensively, I'll say as well. Made some good plays, high degree of difficulty plays, as has the Phillies' entire infield. Bohm, Harper at first. Harper +7 defensive runs saved as a first baseman already, looking like he might be able to win a Gold Glove legitimately at that position soon. But up in what? You don't agree, Ricky?
Don't.
You don't agree?
I'll just say Freddie Freeman.
Oh, okay. And you shaking your head there, I'm thinking you've seen bad signs or something. I'm seeing
No. Bryce is fine over there. I mean, I think pushing the Gold Glove thing on him is a little unfair. I mean, I kind of
if the numbers bear that out, though. If he gets to the end of the season and statistically the numbers are there, you know.
Yeah, statistically, yeah. I mean, they might be, but I mean, you still got to get over Freddie Freeman somehow.
True.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, no doubt. But regardless, so up and down the lineup, you know, everybody's pretty much hit their stride. Even Johan Rojas the last 10 days had some good at-bats, better at-bats. This is pretty much the offense has gotten to the level we'd expect, would you say?
Yeah, Johan's in the 260s now. He's not chasing pitches out of the zone. He's letting the ball come to him. When you could do that, the game just is easier for everybody. I mean, we've seen it with Bryce Harper. We've seen Bryce dancing in the box, and he usually has a big swing and swings through it when his feet are moving so much. But when he's steady, you let the ball come to you and trust yourself. I mean, I guess it's hard when you're 1 for 22. It's hard to trust yourself. I know he was in good spirits. I know he was keeping his mindset in a good place, but he knew something was coming. He knew something was moving in the right direction for himself, and he's gotten himself now to a very respectable number. And confidence is going to brew for him as time moves forward. And like, I think we were all right. I think we all said that they should keep him here. You know, unless it gets like 2 months deep and it really doesn't look good. But I like the adjustments that he's made, and he still saves runs out in the outfield. So it's bonus.
And it stands out, I'll say, more obviously when he's getting on base more, but it stands out how much an impact he makes on the base paths. You know, we talk about the elite defense, but he also has elite speed. I mean, I'm watching some of these jumps. We have a great vantage point in the press box right behind home plate, but you watch some of these jumps. He's midway between first and second as the pitcher's plant foot is coming down. You know, now some of that's because pitchers aren't paying as much attention to him as they are a Trey Turner, who has more of a reputation as a base stealer. But I think pretty soon Johan Rojas is going to have that reputation. He might be faster than Turner. And when you look at the way that he's stealing these bags easily, in terms of beating the tag, I see a guy who could steal 30 plus bases in this day and age with the pickoff rules. And if he's hitting 240 plus, anything better than 235, 240, if he's getting on base at a 310 plus clip, and if he can steal you 30 bases, which turns some of those singles into doubles, right? That's a good enough player. That's a valuable all-around player. And you remember that he's 23 years old? There's a lot of time for him to get better. And he's making the Phillies look smart for their decision to be as patient as they have been.
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off that, I mean, dude, on Monday night when he hit that triple that ended up setting up the sac fly, dude, you blinked and like the camera was still, you know, showing the ball hit like in between the gap there. And he was already rounded second, sliding into third. Like, the speed is there with Johan, and that just lengthens this lineup, right? We've been trying to have, obviously the lineup's been such a big topic of discussion over the last, 7 months, just because of Rob's decision to keep Schwarber at the top and all that. But if you have him batting ninth and he's batting 409 over the last few games, as he said on Instagram, I don't know if you guys saw that, trust the process, which, as the Sixers, doing what they're doing right now, we won't talk about that, but just trust Rohan. Like Rick, you just said it. If you had to believe in him, and he's stepped up here over the last few games, and let's hope it can carry over
But it wasn't us believing, it was himself.
Right.
I mean, that when it really came down to it, it was him believing in himself that he could turn this around. And going 1 for 22 is not a fun feeling. That is a very alone feeling for a baseball player. And he turned it around in a hurry, too. I mean, if you think about what was it? 8-9 games he turned it around in. Yeah. I know it's early in the season, and a 1 for 22 could turn into a good batting average fairly quickly, but he's done a really nice job.
And there's an element, I think an important element, especially when you're early in a season, of like remembering, oh, I can do this. I remember how to do this. I think that's why even a guy like Nick Castellanos needs to have a multi-homer game or something, needs to have a really big night. I mean, he kind of broke out of it a little bit over the weekend against the White Sox. He had a 3-hit night, which it was by far his best night of the season. Struck the ball well to the opposite field twice, once up the middle. But a guy like that needs a game, and it might come this week in Cincinnati, a place where he's comfortable, where he goes deep and hits a double and drives in a bunch of runs and is like the straw that stirs the drink and is the reason why the Phillies win that night. Because with Rojas, he might be able to ride this little hot streak through the rest of the season. Not saying he's going to continue to be hot the rest of the season, but he might not reach a valley as low as what we saw when he was 1 for 22 with a dribbler. So I guess, Ricky, with things so positive right now in Phillies land, is there anything that is concerning you? I mean, okay, they're not going to face the Rockies and White Sox every week, but you still have to take care of business in those games.
But think about this for a second. They just lost the series to the Reds. All right, that's fair to say. The Reds came into Citizens Bank Park, beat them up. What I always talk about carryover, and what does confidence do for you when you get pushed into that next series? Yeah, you just played 6 games against bad teams. But what did you do? You swept those teams. These are still Major League Baseball teams. And to sweep a series, it's not the most simple thing to do in the world. One little hiccup could change that on any given day. We all know that. That's how baseball is. A mistake in the field, a bad pitch out over the middle of the plate. Anything could change the outcome of a game. But they went through these games, and I think, what was the closest game? The 9-5 one,
which was a blowout.
Which was a blowout at one point. So, I mean, I look at it this way. You look at what the offense has done in those games. They're scoring a lot of runs. Everybody's getting in on the act. You brought up Castellanos. Now he's in on it. And what happens when you go to that next opponent? All that confidence comes with you. It doesn't stay with those other 2 teams. So you bring that with them, and these are all professional baseball players on the Phillies. And they put up 7 runs against the Reds, who just took them 2 out of 3 at Citizens Bank Park. So that confidence level comes with you. And now if they could run this through another 3, 4, 5 games, now you're talking about a team that looks dominant.
Agreed. And I mean, we've kind of joking about our pals over at NBC Sports Chicago, man. That White Sox team is not fun. And like, are they going to win 50 games this year?
Yeah, Ozzie Guillen's been destroying them.
Yeah.
That's like us
giving you run for money.
That's like us when we had Kapler.
Yeah. I mean, are they going to win 50 games?
No.
You don't think so? Do you think they'll win more?
They're bad. That's a bad baseball team.
I the other night
right now through 20 something games.
It's not great.
The other night when we were in the press room waiting for Rob Thompson to come down after that series finale, I asked the guys around me, are they going to win 40 games? Because everybody says, the cliche about you're going to win 60 and you're going to lose 60. That team's not winning 60.
No.
And I don't know if they're winning 50 because I wrote this a couple times during the weekend. I know that Luis Robert is injured, and Luis Robert is an all-star level player. But right now, that White Sox team has one player who would be in the lineup of even a middle-of-the-pack team, and that's Eloy Jimenez. Every other player in that lineup would not be in anybody's starting lineup, and the pitching staff is just as thin, and the bullpen is just as thin. So the Phillies did what they needed to do against that White Sox club, and now when they go forward here, this kind of harkens back to what we talked about in the offseason, what I talked about a lot, which was that there are not that many good teams in the National League. Phillies' upcoming schedule. After the Reds, they're in San Diego, then they're in Anaheim for an interleague series, a ballpark they don't go to very often. Then they have the Giants, the Blue Jays, the Marlins, the Mets, the Nationals, bunch of winnable series. You're not going to win every series, but when you look at these teams, this road ahead, they're off to the hot start that everybody wanted them to get out to, that everybody talked about. They're 15-8 while we sit down to record this. By the end of April, they could very well have 20 wins if they finish out the month strong. And beyond that, you're seeing signs that are reason for optimism moving forward. Christopher Sanchez, through the first 3 weeks of the season, through his first handful of starts, has been everything you would hoped he would be coming off of that second half last year. I mean, this is now almost a full calendar year where Christopher Sanchez has been the equivalent of a number 2 starter. Mm-hmm. And we talk about him being better than expectations, but when you put it in those terms, this is a special rotation, as you said earlier, Ricky.
Maybe that's him. Maybe that's just Christopher Sanchez. Maybe he is good. Maybe he is that good. I know he's a little hidden, considering you have, I'm going to say, 3 really big-time studs on this team, starting rotation-wise. At least 3. And everybody else kind of falls into place. But Christopher Sanchez has been good ever since they tell him to come in here, hey, if we get 5 out of you, we'll be happy. If you remember when he first started pitching, it was 3 innings here, 4 innings there. Then all of a sudden they were like, wait a minute, this guy could pitch. Let's stretch him a little bit. And he's shown to everybody that he's a legitimate major league starter right now. I know he's young and I know anything could happen, but at this given time, this rotation's really damn good.
Might have 4 guys who reach 170 innings, which would be like unfathomable in this day and age, but it might happen.
My goodness.
Well, I don't know, Ricky. I don't know if you remember when I was on the best show ever in spring training. I said those exact words, that it's the best rotation in baseball.
Yeah.
And I got destroyed on X and Twitter for it. Destroyed. So.
Well, that's because Taijuan Walker would have been in it at that point.
Touche. So. Well, hey, we'll see what Taijuan can do if he can just add on. And like we've said, I think in the previous podcast.
Hey, real quick, is there anything in the grand scheme of life that matters less than getting destroyed on X or Twitter? Like, there's probably nothing. Who cares? Everybody forgets about it in 30 minutes, 3 hours.
Exactly.
It's Tuesday, and I said on Monday on radio, I said that Tobias Harris would have 23 points. Yeah, I'm sure I'm getting destroyed on Twitter right now, and I don't care.
He had 10.
I don't. He had 10 in the first half.
and finished with 10.
And finished with 10.
We'll talk about the Sixers. Let's close it up here, Ricky. Call it the pen. We'll close it up. Ranger Suarez has 25 scoreless innings right now. It's the second. Well, it's the most since Cliff Lee did it in 2011. Can you guys name? We'll do a little trivia. Can you name just 3 pitchers in the top 10 with the longest scoreless inning streaks in all of baseball? Anything?
Obviously, Oral Hershiser.
Yep,
Yes.
there you
go. We're talking
Corey,
career.
Of all time.
Greg Maddux.
Okay. Maddux.
Glavine
is not. I don't see Glavine.
I know.
I wonder who's the most unexpected.
Fernando Valenzuela.
He's not in there either. Wow. There's some interesting names in here.
Are they all starters though?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 7 is a pitcher right now. We saw him in the playoffs last year.
Zach Allen. Yeah, Zach Allen.
Zach Allen is 7. He had 44 and a third from August 8th to September 11th.
That guy's
somebody say Cliff Lee. Cliff Lee has to be on there, right?
I don't see Cliff Lee on this list.
No, these are all like Oral Hershiser was what, 50 something?
Dude,
yeah. Cliff Lee had those 2 months in 2011. I want to say
it was 30 and 2/3. I think
it was 30 and 2/3, 32 and 2/3,
32 and 2/3,
which is now
so Rangers got a shot.
He's there. He's 7 and 2/3 innings away from that.
Well, that's not there. That's a whole lot.
A long way away.
Right.
2 more starts, but
which I guess when are we going to see Ranger next? We'll see him
in San Diego
early next week if they split up.
I guess San Diego. Yeah.
Monday. No.
They're in LA on Monday.
Well, it kind of seems like it's lining up for maybe to be Walker Sunday, which would push Sanchez back to Monday for that start. But we'll see. Either way, Phillies are headed out west. They are hot in this month of April. They are off to the start that people wanted them to get off to. And it doesn't matter that they played bad teams because those wins still count. And if they went 3-3 that week, everybody would be up in arms. So it does matter equally when they go 6-0. So thanks a lot for listening to this Phillies Talk podcast. I'm Corey. He's Ricky. He's Spence. We'll catch you later in the week.